Welcome to our Cybersafe Digest Weekly Podcast, Episode 4. Each week, we will unfold the most recent cyber attacks and will provide you with valuable insights on how to shield your business from these threats, along with practical steps and tips to enhance your cybersecurity.
Hello and welcome to our Cybersafe Digest Weekly Podcast, Episode 4. The past 2 weeks we've been talking about phishing emails, giving you tips on how to spot phishing and what to look out for on smaller devices, and the response has been great, so thank you everyone who's tuning in regularly for the podcast. In this week's episode we have another special guest, Kat, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi Toby and hi everyone. Thank you for having me here today. It's a real pleasure. My name's Kat and I'm the Business Development Coordinator at Newways, so I'll be looking after all the customers, making sure they've got the tools to keep them safe.
Great, thanks Kat. As tomorrow is Black Friday, we'll be finishing our talk around phishing this week and round out with a few more tips and enhancements on how business owners and employees can protect their businesses from these threats. In a previous episode, we talked with Martin around failing in a safe environment when it comes to phishing emails. Kat, can you tell us a little more about this?
Sure. Phishing awareness training has become an essential part of any business's cybersecurity strategy. It's not just about protecting your company's data, but also about educating your employees on the potential threats they could face online.
So what are the benefits that this kind of training can offer business owners?
Well, the first and foremost obvious benefit is reducing the risk of falling victim to a phishing attack. By ensuring that all of your employees are aware of what phishing looks like, you're significantly lowering the chances of them clicking on malicious links or downloading harmful attachments. Another benefit is that it helps you to protect business reputation. If your company falls victim to a phishing attack, it can cause significant damage to your brand image. Customers want to know that their personal and financial information is safe with you. It doesn't matter what size your company is, nobody is safe when there's so many hackers around. Absolutely.
Trust is a hard-earned asset. Reputation is very fragile, and you need to make sure that you're keeping as safe as possible. So if we discuss the features of an effective phishing awareness training campaign, what should we be looking for?
A good phishing awareness program should offer simulated phishing attacks. So that allows employees to experience what real phishing looks like. So we might get it in the real world. I get texts from DPD saying my parcel's come in. Click this link. Obviously, we have learnt today that that's not real. The training should also provide detailed reporting and analytics. This will help business owners understand their employees' awareness level and identify areas that may need more focus.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We need to make sure that people are actually doing the training. So just taking the training and issuing it is one thing, but actually making sure that people are engaged in it is another thing. That allows us then to make data-driven decisions, which can basically validate our investment that we're making here and identify the areas that we're falling short in. So always important to remember, prevention is better than cure. So we want to try and encourage people to investigate and be suspicious and learn and understand what the real dangers are. And as we touched on in a previous podcast, fail in that safe space. So, the simulations that come in, much better to be tricked by one of those and fail than actually a real message that comes in.
Of course, and a realistic problem that I'm seeing across customer bases, we're not pressing the report button. It's so easy to delete, but we need to be suspicious and report that to a higher member of staff. It gives our listeners a solid understanding of why phishing awareness training is crucial and what to look out for when choosing a programme.
And is there a big difference in the quality of the content? So we see that there's lots of free resources out there on YouTube and things like that versus paid programmes. Do we see a huge difference in the quality of the content, the frequency of the updates?
Yeah, the difference between the two, we're getting so many more updates, relevant updates. For an example, QR codes, they're everywhere today. Just scan to get your menu, scan to go to this website. They're coming through on work emails now.
There was an article on the BBC website over the weekend. Somebody at a train car park had clicked on a rogue QR code, thinking they were paying for their parking, put all their bank details in, and then the bad guys just went off and I think it was £15,000 worth of expenditure. So, just moving money around and buying things, and all from clicking on that one rogue QR. So trying to get people to be suspicious, I guess.
It's taking advantage of people in a rush.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's really one of the things that phishing does. It's when people are not really taking notice of what they're doing. We've said it before, smaller form factor devices, so doing it on their phone. There's a sense of urgency. People need to do something quickly. But yeah, I think QR code is quite an interesting one, because a lot of email filtering systems don't really scan and follow QR codes to see if they go somewhere malicious. So it really is down to the recipient to make that judgment. So before we wrap up, it's important to recognise the real world impact of phishing attacks. Some of our listeners may be thinking, yeah, phishing is a problem, but how bad really is it? Well, let's try and answer that and look at some examples and statistics. So the most prevalent scams in the last 12 months include phishing scams at 37%, trusted organisation scams 21%, and refund scams 13%. So to unpack that a little, phishing scams are this is too good to be true, enter your address here, that kind of thing. Trusted organisation scams are the ones, as you alluded to earlier, the DPD type ones, where it's a trusted organisation that's contacting you and eliciting you to click on the link and follow it through. And then refund scams, and we'll all have seen these. HMRC says you've got a tax refund, or similar kinds of things like that. Again, suggesting that you've won some money, you need to click on a link to do something there. But interesting breakdown. So phishing is obviously still the major scam that's out and about there, but some of these other ones are also definitely in the wings and need to have attention paid to. The most common scams this year, more than 7 in 10 adults targeted by scams in the last 12 months, receiving on average 3 scam attempts a week. So that's over 150 a year. So again, everybody is on the front line here. Everyone needs to be vigilant. And then a couple of stats from one of our trusted security partners, Mimecast. So these may come as no surprise. 97% of companies have been the target of a sophisticated phishing attack. Now, sophisticated is a subjective word, but I think what it's pointing out is that if you haven't received any kind of clever phishing attempt, then you're definitely in the minority. 90% of security breaches are the result of email-based phishing attacks. So there's a common understanding nowadays that attackers will log in rather than break in, and they're doing that by phishing your credentials. And 77% of cybersecurity leaders saw an increase in the number of cyber attacks since last year. So again, this is something that is on the rise, and we just need to pay real attention to email. Email is the biggest vector for opportunistic attacks and opportunistic scams. We need to keep a real eye on that.
Brilliant. And it's scary that a lot of those stats are coming up to 100%. They're nearly reaching 100% of companies have been targeted. So it really does bring it home. Yeah,
it's not an if, it's a when.
It is, yeah. And that's why investing in phishing awareness training isn't just a good idea, it's absolutely essential. And if I were to give one more tip to the listeners, spot the difference. So it's the tiniest difference that you need to see in an email address. If it looks the tiniest bit fishy, if you're not expecting this email, check the email address. Sometimes the A is a different font. You need to check.
Yeah, great advice. So that brings us to the end of this week's episode of the Cybersafe Digest podcast. The key takeaway from this week's episode is to make sure you invest in some form of phishing training. If you need help, you can reach out to New Ways. We're always happy to help and advise. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and most importantly, stay safe out there. We'll catch you next week with more insights and discussion on the world of cybersecurity. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Kat, for being this week's guest.
Thank you for having me, and thank you, everyone.
Bye, all.
Thank you, everyone. We've reached the end of episode 4 of our Cybersafe Digest Weekly Podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and to make sure you don't miss out on our future episodes, hit that subscribe button on Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcast. For more cybersecurity wisdom and resources, head over to our website at cybersafe.co.uk. See you next Thursday.